Hey guys, D.Bowie here, and this is How Pro Smurf. In this game, Waga is playing Ogre. He wanted to roam, but Lion kinda insisted in playing support, which ended up in him playing a farming offlane core. Also, if you don't really understand why Waga is smurfing, you can hear it from him, and it feels like a completely legit explanation to me.
Yesterday I played 9 games of Calibration MMR on this account. I played 0 games on my main account. You know which account I queued longer in total on? Yes, 0 games played, 9 games played. Which one did I queue longer on? There's your answer, dude. Why do you think I'm doing this?
Anyways, the main point about this video is there's this circle jerk notion that it's not wrong, yet it's also not absolute, that the best way to counter greedy drafts or quote-unquote 4-core drafts is winning lanes, pushing early, and winning the game. As I said, this is not false, yet people take this to heart in a way that can end up hurting their team more. I'm going to expand more about this as the game goes on, but think about this for a while. Is it easier to convince 4 other people to play the style you feel like going for and when you feel like going for it, or is it easier to just play your best, play to your hero's power spikes, and decide your plan as the game unfolds? Anyways, look at Radiant's draft. A lot of early game potential, right? Ogre and Spirit Breaker are one of the scariest level 1 duos you can have, so what are Waga's first actions in that game? He calmly explains for his team that they should get the bounty room top. He tells which heroes he needs, and he goes there. Spirit Breaker doesn't join Waga. Is Waga spam pinging? Is he raging? Well, he's not. He goes in anyway. You can see him explaining the decision making.
I'm an ogre. Let's go. I smack you. Nightwalk used. Shackle used early. I can take the bunker in them.
What Shadow Shaman should have done in that situation is waiting for the bounty rune spawn to use his disable, since Lion committed his. This ends up being an easy rune, and I guess this is the most important part of the clip. He has boots and mana. He is not mad or pinging people that Spirit Breaker took too long to charge.
I can take the bunker in them. Not the bounty. Oh shit, that hurts a bit. See, imagine if you were here earlier. Okay, can we... I don't know if we can do anything.
He knows they can keep on going. At least he can try to help. They get Shadow Shaman and look at his clicking patterns. He knows he has move speed advantage over everyone there. Again, he goes for a very safe spot to keep trying to help. But dies to the counter TP.
We had to try. Orb of Venom. Oh. Run, sir. Oh, oh my god. Yes, it keeps fucking with us.
It's a decent trade regardless. This may feel for you like a 2 for 2, but they got the room, they got a first blood, and Dire is losing creep wave gold while Waga is farming, so definitely Radiant favored. What happens from now on to level 3 is what I want to focus now. They have Ogre and Spirit Breaker in their team, so they really need kills, guys. They have to go, they can't be farming. Dire has 4 carries, oh my god. Why isn't Ogre diving the enemy? First of all, your enemy's picks are as effective as they are good. You can have 90% win rate with whatever hero you play. If you're a 3k MMR player, I guarantee you that you don't play that hero to its full potential. And Waga knows it. On top of that, he knows he's going to have level 3 before the enemies. So pay attention to how passive he plays. He only uses Ignite once, and that makes sense. You have innate mana regen, so there's no reason to not commit to low mana cost skills.
Mana regen working.
Since he decided on farming, there's no point in learning the level 2 skills yet. None of them really helps him farm the lane easier. What if he gets Bloodlust and Shadow Shaman shows up right after that and shackles Lion? He keeps playing slightly passive. Only when he's able to force another Time Walk, he sends another Ignite, and if you pay attention, he checked Void's items a little bit before. He only started going for this place because he knows he only had pull tangles. But that doesn't mean they should be diving or pinging there forcing Spirit Breaker to charge. Remember what I said about saving the skill point? That case scenario I mentioned just happens, but Waga doesn't even bother learning the stun. Why? What's Dire's follow-up here? Is he really going to commit 80 mana to prevent like 70 damage? Guess what? Eventually Spirit Breaker decided to charge that lane and they just keep on going. He has arcane boots, and since he didn't spend mana in that situation, they can dive. I really like the Bloodlust on Space Cow, and that Waga decides to go in when he has level 3. It's just a better idea to go in when you reach specific power spikes. You don't need to necessarily pressure the enemy team all the time, especially if you're playing with strangers. Calm down, farm if you're not so greedy core until a specific point. You're not playing against burning. So Waga decides to go Midas. Yes, he's Smurfing, yes, he goes Battle Fury next, and to some extent he could have gone a lot of different items and still win. But this goes back to one of the first things we talked about. Yes, Waga could go Urn and Force Staff and start roaming all the map, but trying to convince your entire team to do complicated maneuvers, even if you get kills, after pressuring multiple lanes is something that backfires constantly. Who likes to play with those micromanaging freaks? And it's not like Ogre is bad in the late game. He does a lot with levels if you play him like a core. Midas is not a throw item if you can get so much farm early on. As Waga states himself, that offlane is now the safe lane. He is definitely more skilled than the enemy team, but did you see any high level plays here? No, the only thing he did was contesting the rune at level 1, which is fairly obvious considering their draft, and then he just took his time and fight with the correct power spikes.
Also, my offlane is my safe lane right now.
What most low MMR players do when they have a lane like this is that they kinda know that Midas is a good item, but they just rush it. Listen to Waga's opinion on another build suggestion that skipped Arcane Boots.
Why did you go Mana Boots? Tread, Midas, Battle Fury. Yeah, but that wouldn't allow me full free farm though. If I didn't have mana, they could just contest the lane. Every time they get here, I'm just gonna throw an Ignite to their face.
Like we saw in the other Wraith King game, he went Treads into Midas. Later, there's a clear necessity for early Arcanes, and going for Midas afterwards doesn't really slow him down all that much. It's 10 minutes into the game, there are some kills happening around the map, yet Waga is here, farming. It's not only about him utilizing farm better than the other players, since he's an amazing player. If he leaves the lane to gank, mid or bottom, suddenly Dire has one extra place that the heroes can farm. So basically, Waga would be exchanging which lane Dire is farming, while he would be decreasing his own farm. There's a pretty good difference between AFK farming the jungle and farming a lane while also zoning everyone out of it. And this is what he achieved with the early game decisions, item build and the Ogre pick. Some players would feel like going for the stun first would be a better option, for instance. Yet look at Waga's build. Ignite at level 7 deals 400 damage before reductions, while Fire Blast has a 40% chance of dealing 380. Still, you're dealing with RNG, you don't get the 8-second chasing power. Look how strong Waga is, while at the same time having late game potential with Midas, since he secured the lane for himself. In 3k MMR games, people are very unaware of their surroundings, and they also like team play, so no one decides to move as 3 or 4 to finally gank Waga, and this guarantees that Dire has 1/3 less farm than a normal game, and free farm for the Ogre. And just a little bit after, Radiant starts to push the tier 1. I guess this is another thing some players struggle with. Taking towers early doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing a good thing. When you push a tier 1 tower, you lose the power to control the lane close to you. So if you're winning the offlane that hard but your team lacks the sieging power to take more towers in that 8 to 15 minutes, sometimes it's just better to wait a little bit before sieging. After the tower, his team ends up feeding, and I like the little efficiency here. He wants to Midas the large camp, but he already aggroes the mid camp creeps towards him. Waga goes for a ton of different efficiency plays. He stacked that camp 2 minutes earlier, and now he's farming it. And that's another benefit of maxing Ignite. With your ult, you have some AoE to clear stacks. But why is Waga farming? There are 4 carries in the enemy team, for God's sake. Well, 2 things. First, 4 cores in the enemy team with only 2 proper lanes to farm. On top of that, these are 3.5k MMR cores. These guys will go for bad plays regardless if Waga is playing Ogre or if you are playing that Ogre. And even with farm, there are a lot of different ways to abuse them. What Waga wants here is at least level 12 before proper big fights. And well, as he gets it, easy kill on Bloodseeker.
Cares about your stupid late mail? Damn. I'm gonna get Sunstruck. Did I move? Oh, he's dead. It's fine. Oh, I'm dead actually. Oh.
Retard 7k MMR ruining pubs. He is the sole reason Trump got elected. Lou, JK. To be honest, if Waga just walked a little bit towards the left, Bloodseeker wouldn't kill him so easily cause he would have vision. But anyways, the point here is, he was the highest net worth, he died a few times, and they won. Don't freak out. The enemy having 4 cores is as relevant as the average MMR increases. Just a little bit after, we see account buyer Waga dying again. One of the biggest struggles 3k MMR players face is playing as 5. Waga ends up forcing to join an ongoing fight, gets there too late, and dies.
Oh, I have a shrine over there. First that guy. Oh shit, man. Creep spawning! Spawn! Spawn! Yes! Minus value.
Even though he tries to be a little bit efficient. He could be Flaming Spirit Breaker, after all the dude ran away having charge and ult and then came back to feed, but it's really a question of understanding your bracket. You can't force people to play like you want to. So what Waga does, he finishes the item he wanted so much, but as he farms, he brings a TP with him. It can be very hard to convince your team to smoke and go for plays, and more often than not it's just easier to be ready to join in whenever they decide to fight or when the enemy starts to play aggressive. Since we're talking about farming, one of the viewers asked about going Radiance. He went Midas and Battlefield, right? Might as well go Radiance and Manta and become Alchemist.
Or can you please get Radiance? No. Why would I get Radiance? I already have Battlefield. Makes sense. Doesn't sound fun. So you wanted to see Radiance Ogre, but you know, that's kind of an either-or situation. Going for both is pretty wasteful.
Waga's answer is the correct one, but I want to complement what he said. Radiance is a farming item, yes, but the value is on Illusion Heroes or Lone Druid. That's it. Even if he went for Radiance for the lose, it's just a wasted slot. He already farms fast, and Radiance doesn't increase the farming speed enough for it to be relevant, while also not synergizing with the hero. This is similar to the Midas dilemma that we had in the beginning of the game. Finally, when there's a fight happening close to a tower, he decides to engage. He already has a TP that was purchased thinking about situations like this one, and look at what happens. Easy 2 kills. He also TPs in the tier 2 to avoid getting shackled or initiated by any ward that's around there. And that's it. Usually when allies complain about a hero farming too much, they are either fighting in a completely isolated part of the map without calling for a smoke first, or they are getting picked off. He keeps farming, waits his team to be around the Rosh Pit, asks for everyone to gather there, and they go in. They have a ward in the enemy shrine, and that's it. Another reason to go Roshan without a pick off or a smoke or anything like that is the 4-core thing. They are way less likely to group up and contest that, since they want to keep farming, they just want to win the late game. With his team already there, it's way easier to bring everyone towards the tier 2. A fight starts and we can clearly see how Waga is actually a delusional account buyer. Jugger gets hit by a Sunstrike way early, and instead of making plays, he goes in to share Sunstrike.
I'll share the Sunstrike. There's one.
Getting hit by a defeating blast. What a noob. As he kills Shadow Shaman, look at his positioning. He sees the enemies going in, and he uses Juggernaut's vision to hide behind a tree and use the stun unnoticed. In the end, this was a 3-for-1, while they also force cooldowns. Void for some reason is running aimlessly in that place. A good Void would have started pushing top. He has no chrono and there's no way he can do anything. Not only he lost a lot of farming time, he died on top of it, and they can just keep on pushing. If those Radiant players didn't knew that Waga was playing Ogre, there's the chance he would be flamed, because yada 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 4 cores, you need to end the game early. But well, it's really just a question of taking the right fights, defending your own towers, smoking, or aimlessly walking towards your enemies at nighttime. then they take more towers and they eventually win the game. Well, this wraps up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please guys give it a thumbs up. Pugna is a platform where you can learn from people like Chessie, Fogged, Waga, and Monib. They have great content on the new patch, and if you want to raise your MMR, this is a great time. Just figure out the patch faster than others and get those easy wins.